Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the podcast that unpacks the big stories shaping your world.
And today, we're looking at someone who's definitely had a massive impact on, well, how you connect, share, and just see information every day.
Mark Zuckerberg. It's quite a story, isn't it? From, a Harvard dorm to running this trillion-dollar company, Meta.
Absolutely. And it's a mix, right? Incredible innovation, but also loads of controversy along the way.
So our goal here is basically to give you the inside track on Zuckerberg and Meta. We've dug through a lot of material.
Yeah, we've pulled out the key insights, some surprising bits to help you understand the decisions, the challenges, the whole why behind Meta's constant evolution. You'll get the context.
Okay, let's rewind. Back to Harvard. Zuckerberg shows up already known as this sort of computer genius.
He really was. But it wasn't just about coding ability. Even before Facebook, he was building things that showed a real understanding of connection.
Like what early stuff are we talking about?
Well, there was Synapse, his senior project, basically music software like Pandora. He actually got offers for it from AOL Microsoft. Turned them down.
Really? Wow, okay.
Yeah, and at Harvard, he built Course Match, helped students pick classes based on who else signed up. Again, it's about connection, information sharing.
Interesting. And that instinct, maybe, for tapping into social dynamics really exploded with FaceMash in late 2003.
Oh, FaceMash. Right, that was the site comparing two students' photos, asking users who's hotter, basically.
It went viral on campus almost instantly.
It did, but Harvard shut it down fast. Big problem was he'd scraped the student photos from the university network without permission.
So a major privacy breach right from the get-go.
Yep, unauthorized access.
But what's really fascinating and kind of key to the whole story is how that idea, FaceMash, and another site he built for an art class final that allowed comments.
Right, commenting on images.
Those became the building blocks for the really big one.
Exactly. February 4th, 2004, he launches the Facebook from his dorm.
With Eduardo Saverin, Dustin Moskovitz.
That's right. And he told the student paper, the Crimson, something like, I can do it better than they can, and I can do it in a week. Talking about some other online directory idea.
Cocky, but he delivered, didn't he?
He absolutely did. The growth was just phenomenal, like 1,200 to 1,500 signups in the first 24 hours.
Wow.
And within a month, over half of Harvard undergrads were on it.
Incredible speed. But, the controversy wasn't far behind, just 6 days after launching.
Yeah, the Winklevoss twins, Cameron and Tyler, and Divya Narendra, they hit him with accusations.
Said he'd basically stolen their idea for their social network, Harvard Connection, which later became Connect You. Claimed he'd strung them along while building his own thing.
And there's this really telling detail from the sources. Zuckerberg apparently found out the Harvard Crimson was investigating these claims.
Okay.
So he reportedly used the Facebook.com itself to find who was on the Crimson staff. And then access two of their Harvard email accounts.
Yeah.
Use failed login data he had to get in and read their emails about the investigation.
Whoa. Okay, that's pretty intense, using his own platform like that so early on.
It really is. That lawsuit eventually settled in 2008. Facebook paid out, 1.2 million shares, valued around $45 million then, plus $20 million in cash.
A hefty settlement. But that wasn't the only early conflict, was it? There was the issue with co-founder Eduardo Saverin.
Right. In 2005, this is just as Facebook was really starting to take off, Zuckerberg basically engineered a way to massively dilute Saverin's ownership stake.
Effectively pushed him out.
Pretty much forced him out, yeah. That also led to a lawsuit, settled out of court, terms confidential. But the friendship, gone. Saverin ended up leaving the U.S. altogether.
So these early incidents, FaceMash, the Winklevoss suit, and the email snooping, the Saverin deletion, they feel like more than just growing pains. They almost set a pattern, don't they?
I think that's a fair assessment. You see this intense drive, this focus on growth and control, sometimes pushing right up against, or maybe over, ethical or relational boundaries.
A willingness to be aggressive, maybe, to secure the company's future or his vision for it.
Definitely seems that way.
Yeah.
Bold moves, decisive action, even if it created conflict or legal battles, it really did set the tone for how Facebook and later Meta would operate.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit. The company incorporates, moves to Palo Alto in summer 2004.
Right, June 2004.
Yeah.
And a key moment in 2005, they dropped just Facebook. After buying the domain, Facebook.com for $200,000.
A bargain in hindsight. And the money starts coming in.
Peter Thiel, summer 2004, the first outside investor. Puts in $500,000, technically $500,000 wanted letters, for about 10% of the company.
An angel investment. And Thiel let it convert even though they narrowly missed a user target, right?
Yeah, showed early faith. Then SL Partners came in with $13 million in May 2005.
And even then, Zuckerberg was turning down buyout offers, like from Yahoo, MTV.
He was. He kept saying the focus wasn't money, it was the mission. Make the world open. He wanted to build features, open it up to developers, not just cash out early.
Which led to things like the newsfeed in 2006. That was huge.
Absolutely central to the experience.
Yeah.
And the like button in 2009. Iconic.
And financially, when did it really start making money?
Sheryl Sandberg joining as COO in March 2008 was key. She really helped figure out and scale the advertising model. By September 2009, Facebook was cash flow positive.
And the user growth just kept climbing.
500 million active users by July 2010. Overtook MySpace as the biggest social platform globally. By late 2010, it was the third biggest U.S. web company, after Google and Amazon.
There was even that stat about San Mateo County where Facebook HQ is.
Oh yeah, in 2012, it became the top wage-earning county in the U.S. Average salary like $168,000, largely attributed to Facebook's impact.
Then came the IPO, May 2012, a massive event.
Huge. Priced at $38 a share, valuing the company at $104 billion. The biggest valuation ever for a newly public company at the time. Raised $16 billion.
But it wasn't smooth sailing immediately after, was it?
No, the stock price actually dropped pretty quickly after the IPO, led to lawsuits and investigations by the SEC and FINRA. Retail investors lost quite a bit, estimated around $630 million.
A rocky start on the public markets, but the growth and influence just continued, especially through acquisitions.
Definitely. Instagram in 2012 for $1 billion seemed like a lot then.
And then WhatsApp in 2014 for $19 billion.
Still kind of mind-boggling. The most ever paid for a venture-backed startup at that point. And Oculus VR, the virtual reality company, for $2 billion, also in 2014.
So gathering all these pieces, social, photos, messaging, VR, setting the stage for something bigger.
Precisely. And even before the big rebrand, the scale was just immense. By October 2012, they hit 1 billion monthly active users.
1 billion people, including 600 million on mobile, and what was it, 219 billion photos uploaded.
The numbers are staggering, which leads us to the really big shift in recent years, November 2021, the rebrand to Meta.
Right, signaling this major pivot towards virtual reality, the metaverse.
Exactly. Launching things like Horizon Worlds, integrating with the Quest VR headsets, pushing into these 3D virtual spaces alongside platforms like Roblox and Fortnite.
And it's not just VR. Big bets on AI too, right?
Huge. In January 2025, Zuckerberg announced plans to pour $60 billion into AI just over that year, including building a massive new data center, like 4 million square feet, in Louisiana. It shows a clear long-term vision.
Okay, so massive scale, huge investments in future tech. But there's this other really critical, very recent development we need to unpack, the shift on content moderation.
Yes, this is a big one. Announced around January 7th, 2025, Zuckerberg laid out some significant changes to how Meta handles content.
Can you walk us through the main points? What's changing?
Okay, so first, he wants to ditch independent fact-checking. Instead, use a community notes system, kind of like what X, formerly Twitter, does.
Okay, user-based fact-checking, essentially.
Right. Second, remove restrictions on certain topics. Immigration, gender were mentioned, aiming to encourage more open discussion.
More open, potentially more volatile.
That's the debate. Third, tweak the automatic filters. They'll only proactively block clearly illegal content or really severe violations. Otherwise, they'll wait for users to flag things.
So less proactive takedowns.
Seems to be the idea. And importantly, he also said they're bringing political content back more prominently onto the platforms.
And physically moving the content moderation team from California to Texas.
Yeah, he cited wanting to address concerns about ideological bias, at least in the U.S., was the phrasing.
What's the official reason he's giving for all these changes? What's the narrative?
The stated rationale is about getting back to our roots around free expression. He argued that the existing moderation led to too many mistakes and too much censorship.
He even mentioned feeling pressured by the White House.
Yeah, in a podcast, he claimed the White House had repeatedly pressured Facebook to take down certain COVID-19 content, even things like humor or satire. So he's framing it as pushing back against overreach and censorship.
Okay, that's the stated reason. But the sources we looked at offer some, let's say, critical analysis of that motivation.
They do. There's a tension, isn't there? When he talks about starting social media to give people a voice, you immediately think back to FaceMash.
Which started by stealing ID photos and rating attractiveness. A privacy violation, not exactly empowering expression.
Right. And Meta's own history with free speech principles seems inconsistent, let's say.
How so? What examples come up?
Well, the big one is banning Donald Trump in 2020. Meta did it unilaterally. Later, their own oversight board said the indefinite ban wasn't really consistent with their own rules, leading to the 2-year suspension instead.
So they acted decisively against certain speech then?
Exactly. And they've historically been quite aggressive in removing other types of content. Remember the controversy over the Napalm Girl photo? Certain LGBTQ plus content removals.
And weren't they very active in taking down Stop the Steal content before January 6th?
Extremely active, yes, citing concerns about potential real-world violence. So the principle of absolute free expression hasn't always been the guiding star.
It seems like Meta's moderation has often been stricter than what the law requires, which leads some critics to say it's less about pure free speech and more about maybe maintaining control or managing PR.
That's definitely an interpretation presented in the sources. Which brings us to a potentially bigger strategic game being played here.
What's the theory? If it's not just about free expression.
The analysis suggests this could be a calculated move, specifically targeting European regulatory approaches.
How does that work? EU versus US?
Okay, so fundamentally, the EU's Digital Services Act, the DSA, puts much stronger legal obligations on platforms like Meta. They have duties to protect users, conduct due diligence, ensure safer services.
Right. More responsibility on the platform.
Whereas the U.S. framework, largely thanks to Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, gives platforms really broad immunity for content posted by users. It prioritizes the platform's own corporate free speech rights, arguably over user protection sometimes.
So the argument is Meta's recent moves are about trying.
Essentially, yes. Trying to free Meta from its obligations to curate a safe environment, as one source put it, while doubling down on its own freedom as a corporation to decide what stays up.
And Zuckerberg has been quite explicit about this pushback, hasn't he?
He has. He mentioned wanting to work with President Trump to push back on governments around the world that are going after American companies and pushing to censor more. He's complained specifically about the EU fining tech companies billions over the years.
Are there other signs pointing towards this kind of strategic alignment?
Well, the sources note things like appointing Dana White to Meta's board. He's the UFC CEO, known to be a longtime friend of Donald Trump.
Okay.
And Zuckerberg himself donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund back in the day. These are seen as data points suggesting an alignment with certain political power structures that might favor less regulation.
And there's the financial angle, too. Didn't Meta's value take a huge hit when Trump criticized Facebook?
It did. Back in March 2024, after Trump called Facebook an enemy of the people, Meta's market value reportedly dropped by over $60 billion. That shows the real financial stakes involved in political rhetoric and alignment.
So putting it all together, the most convincing interpretation from the material seems to be what?
That Zuckerberg is playing a long game. He's a strategic leader, aligning with power centers, political, financial, etc., to resist the global trend towards stricter regulation, especially kind coming from Europe. It's less about pure ideology, perhaps, and more about protecting the company's autonomy and business model on a global scale.
A high-stakes geopolitical chess match played out through content policies. Fascinating and a bit unnerving.
It really is. But the Zuckerberg story isn't just about corporate strategy and controversy. There's this whole other dimension, his philanthropy, his personal philosophy.
Right, the giving pledge. He signed that back in December 2010, committed to giving away at least half his wealth.
Yeah, alongside people like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett.
Right.
And even before that, September 2010, he made that $100 million donation to Newark Public Schools.
Which eventually led to the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, CZI, with his wife Priscilla Chan.
Exactly. Aiming to advance human potential and promote equality, health, education, science, energy.
Now, CZI is structured as an LLC, a limited liability company, not a traditional foundation. Why is that significant?
It's interesting. The LLC structure gives them way more flexibility than a typical nonprofit. They can lobby politicians directly, invest in for-profit companies that align with their goals, make gifts to individuals, things traditional charities often can't do or face restrictions on.
So it's a different model for large-scale giving, more direct influence.
Yeah, it blurs the lines between philanthropy, investment, and advocacy. Some criticized it early on, saying it wasn't real charity, but that criticism seems a bit misguided. Even traditional charities can do similar things, just maybe structured differently.
Are there tax implications to the LLC structure?
There are. It might actually be less tax efficient in the short term compared to donating directly to public charities, because there are limits on deductions for contributions to an LLC like this and shorter carryover periods for excess contributions. So it seems the choice was driven more by flexibility and potential impact than immediate tax breaks.
Interesting. What about Zuckerberg himself? Any glimpses into his personal philosophy or how he operates?
Well, on his Facebook profile, he lists eliminating desire as an interest. Make of that what you will. And he famously does these annual personal challenges.
Right, like learning Mandarin or building his own AI assistant.
Yeah, and there's that anecdote from 2005 when people were questioning if he could really be CEO. Instead of getting defensive, he apparently sought out CEO lessons from a retired executive. Shows willingness to learn, perhaps.
He also had that quote, yeah, we can make a bunch of money, but that's not the goal.
Which, yeah, always raises eyebrows coming from one of the wealthiest people on the planet. But it speaks to that mission-driven narrative he often presents.
And his views on religion have apparently evolved.
Seems so. Raised Jewish, went through a period of questioning, but more recently has said he believes religion is very important.
And then, full circle, he gets an honorary degree from Harvard in 2017, years after dropping out.
Right. Gave the commencement speech, told graduates to just get started. It sums up his own approach, doesn't it?
It really does. A constant drive, adapting, building, despite all the noise and criticism.
Which brings us right back to that central point, that core tension. Zuckerberg's journey is just this incredible ongoing saga of innovation, raw ambition, and the huge, often really controversial ways technology shapes our society.
You constantly see that conflict between the stated mission making the world more open and connected and the realities of privacy issues, content battles, the sheer power Meta holds.
Absolutely. It's a defining story of our time.
So here's something for you, our listeners, to think about. Given that platforms like Meta now wield power almost like nation states, and considering these recent strategic shifts around content and regulation, what do you think their ultimate responsibility is? How do we ensure these global digital architects shape public discourse in a way that's truly open, but also accountable and fundamentally safe for everyone involved?